Good day, everybody. Today we're going to be ranking programming languages from S to D, and the final category, which I think is something that we don't do enough in our area, is let it die. There are some programming languages that should be history, things that we talk about, things that our kids will ask us, did you program in that programming language? And I would be like, yeah, I remember those days, but they're behind us now. We should let a lot of things die. So to start things off, let's go with the first option, C sharp. I haven't used a lot of C sharp in my life. I worked on a company where a part of our code base was in C sharp, and it was frustrating sometimes because I still have to use Windows, but if I'm like, very, I have to be realistic. I feel like C sharp in a lot of cases compared to like its main competitor is Java. And I want to say that like for what it's done, it's not a C level language to me. It's not bad. But it's not something that like really, it doesn't bring me joy. It doesn't spark joy. That's the only thing I can say about C sharp. It's too enterprise. It isn't something that I'm looking to program in and looking to like, yo, let's write this in C sharp, because that usually means that I'm going to be locking myself into a lot of Windows stuff, and I don't like using Windows. I know there's that. I know you guys have Mono, and I think there's been like a lot of advances have been made in relation and like making .NET available on the Linux side, but because of that, because it took a while, I guess I just never really was able to become fond of this language. I know there are a lot of things that they introduced, and or not that they introduced, but it became much more popular after C sharp started using another language. I think were they the first ones that were using async await? I think they might be. I'm not sure. JavaScript, which one got to that first, whether it was JavaScript or C sharp. Which was C sharp. At least that's a good thing that you guys did. Okay, C. I'm not sure whether or not I should put C in let it die or some. I'm gonna put C also. Okay, the thing about C that I think a lot of people need to be honest with themselves about is that it's a product of its time, and we're using very old technology to this day, and we're having to deal with the craft of decisions that were made back then that aren't necessary now. So when we have null terminated strings, ew. We don't have like a slice construct, ew. We don't have a lot of things that I believe a programming language in 2025 should have. Like, I can implement these things. I can make my own library, or I can import somebody else's code, but I really don't like that C has not brought more into its standard. Maybe that's like I can understand why they want to be very conservative with what they add, but that the fact that they haven't makes the problem more apparent of like how much of a pain it becomes to keep on using C in some projects. So I'm gonna put it and let it die. We gotta let C die. Elixir for me is a A-tier language because it made Erlang digestible. I've looked at Erlang code before, and it just seems. How can I put it? Maybe it's because I'm not in that language. I haven't been immersed in it. I don't have a feel for it, but it seemed very clunky, and I like the semantics and the syntax that Elixir brought to the Beam virtual machine and made it something that, oh, now I'm able to better understand these concepts that Erlang has created for concurrency, and I enjoy using them a lot actually. So for me, Elixir is A tier, and also it's Brazilian, and I support anything no matter my country. So yeah, it is an S because we have to be humble sometimes, but it's up there with the greats. Go is D tier. It's not let it die yet because a lot of people use it, and a lot of people are getting into programming because of it. But I personally believe that it's baby's first programming language. It's a good start. I know there's a lot of things that you can do with it, and I'm not gonna like, and I don't want that to come off as something that like I don't want to offend other developers and professionals who use Go, but I just don't like the idea that like I just personally don't like how simple it is, how unexpressive it is, and I know that's why you guys like it, but that isn't the style that I like going for whenever I write code. And as a result, I can never get along with Go. Like, oh, Go was made for people who don't understand these high level concepts. And like, yeah, but I get the high level concepts. I like those things. And I want to do them. And I want a language that facilitates that. And Go doesn't do that. And like it seems like throughout its life it's just constantly showing us that like, oh yeah, like this thing that we were very, very hard-headed about not adding to our language yet. Maybe we should have. The argument against generics was always stupid. Java, I'm gonna have to put respect on Java's name. Java's B tier. Unfortunately, like I don't like using it, I don't like admitting it, but Java was a pioneer for its time, and the things that it introduced and made common in software that like seems redundant nowadays or just seems obvious, we got to put respect on its name because it isn't C where it's like the Latin of programming languages where it was this big thing, but now we want it to be dead. But it comes right after that. So if C is Jordan, Java is like LeBron. That's the way I put it because I gotta respect like some great programming languages that do exist because the Java virtual machines exist. So I gotta respect it. Gotta respect it. JavaScript for me, people aren't gonna like it. S tier. I know people have their opinions, and I just want you to know that has there been a language that has introduced more people to programming than JavaScript has? I know a lot of us have learned C because we picked up programming in college and that's what our professors taught us, but everybody else who picked up programming outside of the university, JavaScript. And once like we know its warts and its oddities and like the weird things that happen in JavaScript, it's a respectable language. I mean, it does what it. You can do a lot of great things with it, and it isn't a. And also, like maybe this is like the early 2000s child in me speaking as well, because JavaScript isn't just JavaScript, the JavaScript that we use now. It's also been ActionScript, which we use in Adobe Flash. I'm like, yo, how many of us have watched things grew up watching things on Newgrounds? Yeah, all that was like made with ActionScript, which is similar to JavaScript. They both arise from the same standard. So it's our dirty look. I don't know how to put it. But we got to put respect on JavaScript's name. Kotlin, I have worked with, and I have worked on a few code bases, and it's above Java, but it isn't like A tier for me yet. It fixes a lot of the things that made Java cumbersome, which Java itself has corrected with the newer versions. But I do like the things that the primitives that they've built into the language for asynchronous programming. That was pretty fun using that when working on some Android applications. Lua, Lua, because it's Brazilian, is also A tier. But no, beyond that, just like Lua is like in the case of JavaScript, where with its ubiquity of just being like the most popular programming language. In the case of Lua, it's just like we've put Lua in so many different things because it's such a light language. What makes it such a great language, right? Like it's a NeoVim now, but also we've used it as scripting language for various kinds of games. We've used it as a scripting language for various kinds of machines as well. And the simplicity of the language is just like I really like the simple primitives that it gives, and you can do a lot with so little. That's what makes Lua so great. But it isn't the best. It isn't even the best at doing that either. We'll get to that later. Objective-C is probably in B tier. I think in the two timelines, like we're in a timeline. I'm not sure if it's the light or the dark timeline yet, but we took the C++ route, and it isn't my place to say, right? But what if there was the timeline where Objective-C was the object-oriented model that was more popular, and C++ was much more niche one? It's a shame that like it was only used for Mac systems, right? But I feel like it would have been so great in other places as well. So I wish we would have went down that timeline. OCaml, I'm gonna put OCaml and C tier. Although I'm gonna also be honest with you guys in the sense that OCaml is a language that I am trying to get into. I can see why it's so like why people like it so much, but it seems so bare bones when you just get a standard installation and you have to like bring in all these other things. And maybe I'm not seeing the beauty in that yet. Like, I don't mind importing other libraries, but it didn't leave a good first impression, is what I want to say. PHP, we gotta let it die. PHP's gotta die. And I say this because PHP is the C of web programming. It's what, like, the oldest websites, and most of the website as well, are built in PHP. And I know Laravel did a lot of work to make things much more manageable and development much better. But I've just worked on so many PHP projects before Laravel was popular, and we gotta kill those systems. We gotta sunset them. They need to be put down, and something new has to be put in their place. We gotta let PHP die. PowerShell, let it die. Windows, like, everybody has shown consistently how much Bash, all of the Unix shells are better than PowerShell. Why aren't you? It's like you guys fuck up everything. We could all come together and have a decent scripting language that would be universal across, or at least be the dominant one across most computers, and then you go and fuck it up by putting PowerShell. Python, C, C, and this is, I just don't enjoy writing Python. Sorry. Probably with the other languages that I'm going to be putting up there, probably with the languages that are going to follow, it's going to be obvious why I don't like Python, but it doesn't spark joy. It doesn't spark joy. R is a D-level programming language. I am only aware of it because I know a lot of people who work with research and they do statistics work. And whenever they're trying to do something, they're like, yo, I'm trying to figure out the statistics thing, and like, I need and they come to me because they know I work with programming, and they're like, how do I express this? And then they give me R code. I'm like, this is the ugly shit. This is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Take this. Like, why did you show me this? Like, why are you hurting my eyes like this? Ugh. Ruby, S tier, S tier. Ruby's at least for the predominant C style language, Ruby's the best one. And I know what people are going to say. Oh, it isn't performant. Oh, it allocates a lot of memory. But people get shit done in Ruby. You guys do not know how many companies out there built on Ruby and how much, at least in my experience from what I've seen, a lot of big things are built on top of Ruby, and nobody's complaining yet, and everybody's still enjoying writing Ruby. Ruby's great because the only language that's above it, in my opinion, is it captures what I really like about that language in a procedural programming language. Of course, Ruby's multi-paradigm, and there's a lot of object-oriented and functional aspects to it as well, but it's also a language that's easily parsable for people who are familiar with C-style languages, which is the procedural style. Rust is, I'm going to put it at B right now, because Rust for me is a step in the right direction for low-level programming. So it's like, it's the next step in low-level programming after C. And I'm not sure if it's the right direction. There are other programming languages that aren't on this list that are also treading down that same path. There's Odin, there's Zig, there's Nim, and those are the main ones that I can remember at the moment. But they're treading down a new path, and I'm enjoying that, like, we have better programming languages for this scenario, so we don't have to keep on using C. Scala, what do I think about Scala? I've gotten to use Scala once, but it wasn't a lot. I didn't get to do much work with Scala. It was fun that I was able, that like it was a nice find when I was looking around for a bug at a time in the company, and there was like, and during that search, I found out that it was in the Scala service, so I gotta work there. But with my limited experience, I want to say that it's B. I enjoy the expressive, the functional expressiveness that I gained from it, while while being able to use a lot of the things that were inside of the JVM. So I like being able to use what's available to me in the JVM and be able to express it in a functional program. Swift, I haven't used much Swift yet. It's one of those things where I only see Swift the few times that I have to open up Xcode to build a project. And at least one thing that the thing about Swift that I'm not sure about yet, because it's succeeding Objective-C, and I really enjoy what Objective-C is doing, or what Objective-C did. So I'm gonna put in those two in the same rank, but it still has to prove itself to me. And unfortunately, it's very limited by the fact that it's mostly used by Mac people, and I don't primarily work with iOS development. JavaScript, let it die. Let it die. I understand why people like TypeScript, but it made me hate JavaScript. It took the joy away. I get there are a lot of good things that it does, and how it makes more stable programs and everything. But or it doesn't make more stable programming languages, but the types allow us to be more expressive and be able to create more resistant code and more maintainable code and all that. And maybe this is one of those things where it's like I was such a job. I would like I've been working professionally with programming for over 10 years now. And before then, obviously, I was doing a lot of script kiddie things with JavaScript and like messing around with websites. So like I had so much experience with JavaScript, and then I go into a TypeScript project, and it's exactly the same problem I think people who write C have with Rust, where it's like I want to do the thing, let me do the thing, and then I just end up doing an as any. So you gotta let it die. C++, because of my opinion on Objective-C, I'm just gonna say that C++ is C, because it's the time we're in the timeline that I didn't that I if you could throw me back in time, this is what I want to change. This is what I want to change. So it has to be below Objective-C. Lisp, S tier, the programming language above programming languages. Now I get on C's ass about being a very old programming language, and Lisp is even older, but it's timeless. Like, with such a simple syntax, you're able to express everything, literally everything. And there hasn't, like, and even like whenever I'm just like writing down ideas for systems that I'm working on, and I just want to like sketch out an idea and try and express like, oh, we need to be doing this and everything. I can write it down on paper in Lisp, and it makes sense. And it's like it's such a flexible language, and you'd be amazed what you can express with just lists. So it's one of those things where it's like if you've never written Lisp before, I suggest picking it up. Maybe one day I'm gonna like write a Lisp. I'm gonna like make a little Lisp course, just showing like why it's so cool. But pick up the wizard book one day. It changes you. It makes you a better man. And Bash, this should be Bash. Bash for me is, I'm gonna put it in A, because it is the glue of the internet. Well, not the glue of the internet. It's the glue of of any computer, right? I know like Perl is known as the glue of the glue of the web, and like a lot of things are just made on top of Perl scripts. And the same thing would be said for Bash on the system administration side. So yeah, this is my ranking. This is just all my personal opinion, of course, and I don't want to say that like, oh, statically, like I see that like a lot of statically compiled languages are in the lower ranks, and I don't want people to come off as me saying that like, oh, statically compiled programming languages are worse, because they aren't. They have their advantages and obviously their benefits. But as somebody who got into programming, or like programming became, I came into programming learning C and Java. And afterwards, what really made it this wow thing for me is when I like picked up Ruby on Rails, and I've been hooked on dynamic programming languages since. I know how to work on the lower. I can I know how to do everything on the lower level, but I will always be fond of dynamic programming languages. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe, everybody. Leave your comments down below. What do you think of my ranking? And also, if you think I'm wrong, no, you're wrong.